look, we have limited resources. Let us put these resources towards the development of this nation first.
Staring at bankruptcy, President's headache at MCA's conference. Dingilu assault a lands officer, the blame continues.
A major swelling on the top of the head. Then there is another one at the side, one at the front. So you can imagine if somebody falls on the wall, if you can get 3 scars attack consecutively.
Another mysterious death in school, the agony of boys' parents.
Amenichukua. Ninaishi na bwana ya mtu sahi kwa nyumba. Yako na wabibi wawili, mimi ni mbibi watatu.
And marriage made by men. Will the president sign the new law? Well, we are coming to you live from the Standard Group Center here in Nairobi. It's yet another great Friday here at KTN. And as always, a pleasure having your company on Friday briefing. Well, we have the latest news updates, including some very interesting views about the marriage bill and, of course, other stories that the team has been working on. Also, being Friday, our unrivaled segments of The Guest Anchor and Mind Your Language are on the menu. Equity Bank CEO and Managing Director James Mwangi will be taking the hot seat tonight. And also, Willis the Word Master is not in Kisumu but right here in Nairobi, and he will be joining me in just a short while for tonight's lesson. All that is coming up in just a short while, but we now start in Mombasa, where President Uhuru Kenyatta succumbed to members of County Assembly's pressure, promising to negotiate with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission on giving them car grants. The president, who officiated the opening of MCA's retreat in Mombasa, indicated that all leaders are equally elected and should be subjected to the same benefits. But as he promised to address the MCA's plight, the president reiterated his concerns about the high public wage bill. Uhuru dashed any hopes of increasing allocation of funds to the counties and creation of ward development funds, saying the country's resources are strained. The MCAs are meeting in the coastal city to take stock of devolution of the performance of the assemblies 1 year on. KTN's senior coast reporter Ferdinand Omboni now joins us live from our Mombasa studios with the latest. Fadi, bring us up to speed with the highlights of today's session.
Good evening, Betty. You have actually summed it quite well, and I can just say that there are 2 sticking points from today's Day 1 summit. The first one really was on the matter of the nominations or the nominated MCAs. There's been a bill proposed actually and approved to be discussed in Parliament about the scrapping up of the nominated seats, and this generated a lot of debate with many speakers who were at the seat. They are actually giving the members of Parliament quite a number of villainous names. And indeed, Chief Justice Willy Mutunga said that devolution is the cornerstone of the new constitution, and a lot of the speakers are trying to paint members of Parliament as the exact opposite. So later on, I pulled away 2 members to speak on this matter. One of us, Michael Songo, a member of County Assembly from Migori County, and Catherine Oruguru, who is a nominated youth representative and whose role is also in danger if that bill is passed. And I asked them the question, would they support the proposed scrapping of the posts? And this was their reaction. Is being proposed?
No. Actually, this one I vehemently oppose.
I totally disagree, and it's a disgrace.
Because I don't know whether our MPs understand the Constitution as such. Because the Constitution says the women have been given a chance for 15 years, after which they will be elected as any other. But for now, we need the women also to be represented. So the issue of replacing the nominated MP, to me, the MCAs, this is out of order.
As far as I'm concerned, we do not have resources for conducting any referendum. So what you're trying to preempt, tunaruka mbele ya ngoma. Na nilisikia mtu mmoja aliniambia rafiki yangu na yeye anafunga kiremba ile ya Mukurino. ukuwe mkurino mwerevu, unagojea drum beat kwanza ianze ndio uanze kucheza ngoma, lakini uchezi ngoma kitambo drum beat ianze. Watupatie nafasi to implement hii katiba na devolution ipate mizizi, alafu waseme twende, lakini hakuna mahali sisi tunaenda.
Betty, there are about 800 nominated MCAs, and perhaps the proponents of this motion could be pointing to that figure, to seeing it as a significant way of reducing the wage bill, while the opponents of the same say that the county assembly members or the nominated posts actually now give a leeway to the marginalized members of the community to have a say in the nation building. And I'm speaking about women, the youth, and also members with disabilities. Now, there's another sticking point also that you've mentioned to and alluded to, and that was the matter of car grants. There was a huge clamor for them to be given wages, a wages rise, and also car grants, as opposed to loans that they're being subjected to. And the argument was that they are equal to the members of parliament. Say members of county assembly are not councillors, but these are people who also sit and formulate policies here. And apparently, after President Uhuru Kenyatta told them there was no way they would have their pay rises, after giving a very long and passionate plea for them to consider their priorities, at the end of it all, he actually bent his rules a little bit. This is how it went.
About 3-4 months ago, they asked me that ile mumewapatia 2 million plus 3 million all loan. They are suggesting that because it is not even equal to the grant of a car to an MP, hii ingekuwa grant tu. Na tumepatia and we have made this recommendation to Treasury as Council of Governors. We have made that recommendation, but we don't get a feedback. So we are very lucky that we are with you, the biggest man in the Republic of Kenya.
Hiyo umesema pia ni haki, kwa sababu kama itakuwa loan, iwe loan kwa kila mtu. Kama itakuwa grant, lazima iwe grant kwa kila mtu. Hiyo ni haki.
Betty, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been speaking really big on austerity, taking a 20% pay cut, ordering the members of the parastatals, the heads, to take another 20% pay cut, and saying that the wage bill needs to be cut. But if this goes through, there are about 2,000 MCAs. Now, if each of them were to receive a 3 million shilling grant, you do the math and tell me whether that works for austerity. That's 8 on day 1 from Mombasa. Betty.
Thank you very much, Ferdinand Omoni. That's quite an expensive treat, just to put it out there. But of course, thank you very much, Ferdinand Omoni, giving us the details of the MCA's Devolution conference that took place today in Mombasa County. And his report leads us to a big question tonight. And we ask, should the MCAs be given car grants by the state? Should MCAs be given car grants by the state? Well, send your yes or no response with a brief comment to the number 22155, or you can tweet me at Betty Kialo or at KTN Kenya, or even with a hashtag Friday Briefing, and we'll be sampling your views as we move along in this bulletin. Now, the parents of a Form 3 boy are seeking answers after the 17-year-old student died following an incident in school. Now, the boy at Pumwani Secondary School is said to have been hit by someone or something during a scuffle. But as KTN's Wilkis Tanyabo reports, the school is not giving any explanation about the incident.
The last 24 hours have been like a nightmare for the family of 17-year-old Stephen Baraza. As family members assemble outside Chiromo mortuary, reality dawns that they will never see him alive again. The Form 3 student died after sustaining injuries while at Pumwani Secondary School. Family members received a phone call at midnight informing them that Stephen had been injured in an incident that had occurred at the school.
And he told me they had finished eating and now they were running back to class. And then he fell down on a wall and hurt himself. So I could not take in that. It was too much.
He was rushed to a private hospital in Nairobi West Estate, and early on Friday morning, his family was summoned from their home on the outskirts of Nairobi. Stephen would die shortly after daybreak, and thus began the quest to establish just what happened to him.
When we look at the body has about 3 scars on the head. In fact, a major swelling on the top of the head. Then there is another one at the side, one at the front. So you can imagine if somebody falls on the wall, if you can get 3 scars consecutively.
A medical examiner found fresh head wounds on the boy. School authorities allegedly told the police that Stephen had been involved in a tussle. They later altered their tale, claiming he sustained injuries after falling and hitting his head. The school principal could not be reached for comment. Family members, however, claim Stephen had reported instances of bullying when he joined the school.
He was completely withdrawn. We looked at even ways of transferring him. So when he saw that he was going back to the same place, he was really down.
No death certificate could be issued to the family, as Stephen did not spend 24 hours at the medical facility before his death. His family now awaits the results of the post-mortem examination. Wilkison Abwa, KTN.
Now, Deputy President William Ruto blasted those calling for a referendum to scrap the positions of nominated legislators and MCAs. Well, Ruto says the Constitution is a supreme law, not a document to be patched up at anyone's convenience. The Deputy President, who toured Marakwet region in Elgeyo Marakwet County, instead told leaders to focus on developing the country.
Katiba tuko naye ni katiba mpya. Tunataka tutekeleze katiba iliyoko kwa kikamilifu, ndio tuweze kupata nafasi ya kujua baada ya miaka 5, miaka 6, miaka 7, tujue ni sehemu gani iko na matatizo, na kama matatizo haya hayataweza kutibiwa kwa njia nyingine yoyote.
We are not sure yet what kind of amendments are required. Na tusianze kuweka katiba biraka, kwa sababu hata nguo, ukinunua nguo mpya uanze kuweka biraka, hiyo nguo utaiharibu.
Hii ni the first 3 years ya implementation. Tushikane pamoja kwanza, tuhakikishe counties imesimama, transition imefanyika, ndio wakati tunasema tubadilishe, tujue kila kona ya katiba inaonja namna gani kabla hatujabadilisha.
Well, here in Nairobi, Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu was fighting hard to clear her name over claims that she assaulted a lands officer last evening. Well, Ngilu has now turned the heat on the said officer, accusing him of illegally allocating land without her consent. KTN's Najma Ismail reports on the latest twist in the wrangles at Arthi House.
She has been here before at the center of controversy, Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu's affinity for courting trouble. This time, she's facing allegations of assaulting Gordon Ochieng, a legal advisor at the Lands Administration at Arthi House yesterday.
That is your story. You know, my story is to find out, and I'll continue to do so, to make sure that we rid this ministry of some of these people who are making Kenyans very unhappy.
But Ngilu has her own accusations, claiming the said legal officer allocated a parcel of land in Parklands area using fake documentation.
There's no name. I'm just talking about a company called Flash Video Services Limited. Flash Video Services Company Limited. It only signs below here, director. No name. There's even no date on this.
Only yesterday, the Law Society of Kenya called on the CS and the National Lands Commission to seek an advisory opinion from the Supreme Court on their respective mandates. But Ngilu remains on a warpath, dismissing a notice by the National Lands Commission about new land registration forms, saying that no such documents have been issued by the government.
So this new document is not usable and is not a valid document. So I want to ask Kenyans not to start filling these forms.
The ministry and the commission are embroiled in an ugly tussle with allegations that Ngilu wants the commission ejected from Arthi House. Najma Ismail, KTN.
Now, a day after KTN highlighted the plight of villagers in Turkana, Police Inspector General toured the area today and assured residents of increased security. David Kimayo addressed the public at Nakwamoro village and asked residents to respect the law and provide police with information on suspected criminals living amongst them. Kimayo sent a condolence message to the family of an administration police officer who was killed on Tuesday by bandits. Now, the top cop said the extra security personnel will help in intensifying patrols along the Turkana-Pokot border and the busy Lodwar-Kitale highway. Right, we're just about to take a short commercial break, but let's have a reminder of our big question tonight. And we are asking, should the MCAs be given car grants by the state? Should the MCAs be given car grants by the state? What do you think? The number is 22155. Send a yes or no response with a brief comment, and we'll be sampling them as we move along. Let's take that break right now. Don't go away. When we come back, we introduce a very interesting guest anchor and a first here on KTN Friday Briefing. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Friday Briefing. Now, a new UN report is warning of what it calls a looming water crisis in developing countries such as Kenya. The report, released ahead of tomorrow's World Water Day, says growing demand for water and uncertain climate are making water more scarce. KTN's Joy Darinbira explains.
In a decade's time, it could turn into a scramble for water for the over 7 billion and rising population, as access to clean water is fast becoming limited. A latest United Nations report indicates that lack of water, sanitation and sustainable energy could drive poverty levels further high. In Kenya, drought-hit areas like Turkana and Turkana also register some of the highest levels of poverty.
Still have to finish the unfinished business, to make sure that everyone has access to safe drinking water. It's a fundamental human right.
The United Nations now recommends that developing countries like Kenya that are dependent on agriculture need to adopt more integrated policies that will minimize the current 2/3 of water used for agricultural purposes.
Think of, for example, hydropower. It's obvious. It's a source of energy, direct source of energy. But even if you think of nuclear energy, you need water to cool the plants. And the same applies to other forms of thermal energy out of oil, gas. So you need water for these other forms of energy.
If measures are not taken to attract more water through rainfall, by the year 2050, demand for water around the world is set to increase by 55%. This means fresh water will be needed for farming, construction, cooking, drinking and energy production. Currently, 20% of the world's underground water-bearing rocks are depleted, which could see the entire world have a severe water crisis. Joy Darinbira, KTN.
Right, thank you very much, Joy, for that story. Let's now move on to another one, and it's a reprieve for Beth Nduta, a Standard 8 pupil at Victornell School in Nakuru. The pupil can now sit for her final Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exams after her school agreed to register her for her exams. Victornell School had refused to register the girl, alleging that she is too slow in her learning and will be greatly affected will greatly affect the school's mean score if allowed to sit for the exams. But a day after KTN highlighted the pupil's dilemma, the school has had a change of mind. The girl's family was devastated by the school's earlier decision. Her parents claim at some point the school had expelled their girl from the institution. All right, let's now have what happened at the courts today with Winnie Kamau.
Meru County Governor Peter Munya received a slight reprieve after the Supreme Court issued an order stopping the swearing-in of Meru County Speaker to assume the governor's seat until the election of the new governor. Justices Professor Jackton Ojwang and Dr. Smokin Wanjala gave their orders pending a ruling on Wednesday next week, when they are expected to rule whether the case will be dismissed or not. IEBC has protested Munya's nullification, claiming another by-election will cost it over 300 million shillings. Further, the courts have ordered former Gatundu North Member of Parliament Patrick Mirori Karaoke to undergo a DNA test to establish the parenthood of a child he said to have sired with Joyce. High Court Judge Justice Isaac Lenaola directed Mirori to present himself at the offices of the government chemist at Kenyatta National Hospital for testing. Justice Lenaola gave Mirori 14 days to undergo the DNA jointly with Joyce and the baby at the center of the dispute. Meanwhile, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Keriako Tobiko, has formally withdrawn charges against Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero and Woman Representative Rachel Shebesh. The DPP noted that Dr. Kidero and Shebesh have since settled their petition out of court. When it came out, Friday briefing.
All right, so it's time that we get to see and know more about our guest anchor tonight. And joining me in studio, as I mentioned earlier, is of course James Mwangi, the CEO and MD at the Equity Bank. Great to have you in studio.
Thank you, Betty.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I hope you didn't get too much traffic when you were here.
No, I could cope.
Oh, you could cope.
Yeah.
So how are things at Equity Bank?
Oh, we are glad we are doing well. We continue to be supported by Kenyans, and we feel privileged that we always given out an opportunity to serve them. Yeah.
So any chance of you retiring soon, because I can send my resume there?
I think there is always an opportunity for every Kenyan to work alongside us.
Yes.
And also, maybe I don't need to retire that quickly. I need to coach and mentor you and turn you into a banker.
Yeah, before I take the bank.
Absolutely.
You see, the thing is, I'm obviously not a banker, probably because I wasn't good in mathematics. I'm sure you are pretty good in mathematics.
No, at my level, it's more of leadership. It's not a technical skill. It's really inspiring your followers to believe in philosophies of the bank, to be passionate about it, and to accept to follow you. That's really what my big job is, and you support yourself with the technical people to do the technical bit.
Okay, let me throw you off balance a little bit. Let's go back to your childhood, because I'm very curious about the kind of child you were. First of all, is it a story of from grace to grace, or is it from grass to grace? How can you describe your childhood?
You know, it is Betty. I was born at the eve of independence, and there every African child in the rural area really was brought up in a very humble setup. I was unfortunate to have lost my father at a toddler, and I was left with my late mother, Grace, and she hadn't gone to school, and the only thing she could do was to work a living out of peasantry farming. So that gives you a feel of the background of growing up in the rural areas at independence.
Is it true that at some point you were selling charcoal?
It is true. I was not only selling charcoal, but I was also vending fruits to be able, and milk to be able to pay for school fees. And I was a beneficiary of what we used to call bursaries. That time always going to queue at Chief Waloe's office to get bursary to move on with the school.
So it wasn't, definitely it wasn't easy.
Yeah, it was very humble upbringing.
All right. And in your wildest dreams at that point, did you ever think that at one point you'd have accomplished all the things that you've been able to?
It is not necessarily true that at that time you could be able to see the end of it all. But I had a very prayerful mother who really kept on interceding for us and praying that God's favor be upon us. And essentially that gave us a lot of confidence of better things. And when we started performing well in school, we saw that as an opportunity, because at that time, if you performed well in school, there was an automatic job for you. And truly it happened. So you could see. But I never saw myself when I was growing up being a leader of an organization of equities status.
It goes back to what Lupita Nyong'o said the other day, that, no matter where you're from, your dreams are valid. Seems like the same kind of story.
It is true that your circumstances is not a condition in life. We can all come out of our circumstances. You need to ask ourselves, what does it take to get out of these circumstances? And essentially, it is true that when given an opportunity, everybody has the ability to unlock their full potential. And basically what society did was to give me an opportunity to get quality education.
Yes.
And that quality education changed my life, like it has changed for many Kenyans.
And then fast forward to when you're, I think, was it 28, 29? Correct me if I'm wrong. Then you're given this huge responsibility. At that point, it was called Equity Building Society, and it was actually, they call it technically insolvent. What does that even mean?
It meant that if you try to balance the books of the building society, you could get negative financial value, such that it had deposits of 22 million, assets of 26 million, but had accumulated losses of 33 million shillings.
Wow.
So when you do deductions of assets and liabilities, you get a negative figure. And that was really an awkward position.
So when you took up, because you obviously nailed it, from 5 million losses to now you're talking about, is it 19 billion for the profit that I don't know if I should say that that Equity Bank is now making. But then what lessons can you say you've been able to learn before when you took that job, and now that you've been able to kind of like save the Equity Bank to now where it is right now?
I think the first lesson is that any business operating in the market must have a very strong value proposition for the market. That's the only way the market accepts it, to interact with it. It must give more than it receives in terms of value. So that symbiotic relationship is important. The second thing is that business must be relevant to the people that it purports to serve. And that relevance needs to be felt by the customer themselves. So turning equity, we realized that the high margin banking business was not appropriate for the Kenyan people. We said, okay, we'll take very low margin, but we will compensate that with volume. The way people say total revenue is price times quantity, we said we will not focus on price, we'll focus on quantity. And that is why today we are home for more than 50% of our bank accounts. So you charge little, but because you are charging a huge number, then you are able. Then we realized technology could be an enabler that could reduce cost, but it was all about service. So if we could do service better, introduce a human face in banking, then people would respond positively. And truly, they responded.
It actually worked.
And when you succeed, then we embraced the concept of sharing prosperity. We said, how much can we plow back? And that is when we focused on training farmers. We focused on the informal sector, what used to be called Jua Kali. We said, that is what we focus on. And today you can see our Finca training, targeting 1 million people. We're now talking about wings to fly, 10,000, and developing nearly 2,000 leaders for the future of this country. Then once you share your prosperity, then you become owned by the society itself.
Yes. And it's very true what you're saying, and we'll be talking about wings to fly in just a short while after you introduce the story for us. But before then, what is it about Kenyan youth? Very driven. What could you say are the mistakes that maybe they make when they're trying to pursue some entrepreneurship skills?
I think the biggest mistake that I find Kenyans making when they pursue entrepreneurial skills is short-term focus. People want to achieve too quickly without knowing that, like a child, business grows over a time, and you can only do one thing at a time. I think that patience. The second thing is businesses, like people, needs to have values, things like ethical behavior in business. The way we say human beings observe values, and that gives them their behavior. I think that is something we need all to learn, that business should have ethics. If you look at Kenya, and I really always sympathize with the farmers. Farmers are normally miserable because business people take advantage of them. They give them seeds that are long, they give them fertilizers that is long, and everything. And that is not sustainable, because sooner or later, people realize where the problem is, and they shut you out of business. And then the last one is this quick success that people are looking for. Business success in business is not like turning on lights, that it's now on and suddenly the whole room is full of light.
Yes.
It's a journey.
Yes.
It's a process. So the question of quick gratification, immediate gratification, simply because you have put up your business, you must buy a car, you must live in a big house, you must have a big office. Those are things that take a long time to come later. And that patience is what would appeal to Kenyans. And then looking at business models. It's not just copying. Is the business model appropriate for the market? Are the products offering appropriate for the market? Are they priced appropriately for the market? Those, I would say, are the biggest lessons I've learned with the equity experience. And then lastly, the people. The success of equity is because of great staff, great dedicated, devoted employees who are very passionate. And if you look at equity, our vision and purpose is not banking. It's socio-economic transformation of our people. So they are very passionate. And that passion and enthusiasm drive the business. And you almost connect with the customers at an emotional level. So valuing the customer, giving them the respect that they deserve, really makes the business to connect with the market.
Okay. Right. Very interesting words that you're giving us, and we'll continue with the chat in a short while. So when it gets to this point, the guest anchor usually introduces a story for our audience. What I do. Probably one day I should come to Equity and, have a day in your shoes, maybe.
But Betty, you told me that if you come to the bank, you need me to train you.
Yes.
How can you make me an anchor before you have trained me?
I'll train you. So what happens is, you see this camera right here in front of you. This is camera 2. So he's going to go very, very slowly. Don't worry, you'll be fine. So just introduce the story to us, and we'll continue with the chit-chat in just a short while.
Thank you.
Feel free, yes.
Let's now turn to the controversy in marriage bill. A day after it was passed by Parliament, opinion is divided on whether it will improve or break marriages. KTN, Mashilima Kapombe has more.
When two are joined together, so goes the vow, but it seems that may now change to multiple vows, or perhaps no vows at all.
When you marry an African woman, she must know the second one is on the way.
After MPs passed the marriage bill amendments last night, Kenyans seem divided on the bill that many see as one that has shielded the men from being accountable.
If you are the head of the family, si lazima mpaka ionekana utaratibu huo kwamba wewe ni the head of the family.
Ndio zita break zaidi because hii ni Kenya, wanaume wa huku kuzunguka wanapenda.
Be responsible. Will he be able to take care of all of us?
Yes, exactly.
Relationship experts are of a slightly different opinion that the bill may not tinker much with what is already happening in the society, but they say the bill may be going against the core values of what marriage is all about.
I mean, marriage is all about openness and honesty. And if you are, for some reason, planning to take on another wife, at the very least you should be involving your current wife in the discussion.
Bwana wangu alikufa, bwana wa mtu mwingine ndiye amenichukua.
Dr. Chris Hart also says laws may not affect promises made to partners on marriage, as it is upon the individual to judge his or her partner's honesty and ability to honor the promise. On the streets, however,
I have a biology clock that is going round, so that is wasting my time and my feelings, so you'd better just not commit yourself.
That debate is likely to continue in the coming days, but the final say now lies with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Mashirima Kapombe, KTN Friday Briefing.
Thank you very much, Mashirima, for that controversial story. You fared pretty well. You were nervous, but it's not that hard.
Let me tell you.
Yes, please do.
I recognize that being a news anchor is something that one takes a gifting. And I now appreciate what you do in studio.
I love that. And that's the reason that we like, having guest anchors, your experience.
I would give myself 3 out of 10. So it's a very poor performance.
I would give you, let's say 4, 5 out of 10. Yeah? You did.
You're being very generous.
I'm being generous. But you did quite well. So before we hand things over to our business anchor, I would like to know what inspires you. What is your mantra in life? What drives you?
I think I've realized that over time my inspiration keeps on changing. At the moment, I'm really being inspired by the Wings to Pride program, and particularly how these young, gifted, needy kids are embracing opportunities. If you look at it, 92% of all the Wings to Pride students who sat the exam last year qualified for a university entrance. And you can see what we need in Kenya is just to give opportunities to people. Let's give our youth opportunities. So I'm really inspired about giving people opportunities because I've realized people have enormous capability. What people lack is opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how important is leadership? Because I know you actually today you launched something to do with a leadership program. Maybe you could tell us something about that.
It is true. In 1998, we started developing leadership for this country. So far, we have over 2,000 university scholars who have joined this program. And it was out of the desire to create the future leadership. It would be value-based, ethical leadership. It would be servant leadership for the country. But more importantly, coach it and mentor it, such that it's not just pulling somebody into leadership. Leadership should be an art that somebody is fully developed for. And so far we have about 1,800 in university. And we have nearly 200 now in our foreign university. Again, because we believe leadership should be very exposed. I think I'm a strong believer that an organization or a country or a family can never be better than its leadership.
I like
and
that.
People say rains, rise and fall with the leadership. So we felt the greatest contribution we can make is to build great leadership that then can take this country to great heights.
All right.
And amazingly, we were lucky that this program taps the most gifted. So when you have the most gifted, then trained into leadership. And then given opportunity, this country can go very far. And I would like really to appeal to Kenyans to support these scholars. We call them the Equity African Leadership because we want to really make Kenya a center of excellence in leadership and a role model for the rest of Africa, because the contradiction of poverty and resources sitting side by side in Africa can only be resolved by having great leadership. And the type of leadership we are training is what one could call transformational, disruptive leadership.
Okay. All right, as we wind up, what is your advice to, you're such a big inspiration to very many Kenyans. What would be your advice to young people who are trying to come out, young people like you mentioned, who are starting like you in the villages? There's really no, ray of hope. What is it that you would advise or inspire to them?
I think two things, that all is not lost. To seek opportunity. Opportunities will not go to them. They must seek opportunities. And when given an opportunity, to do whatever it takes to unlock their full potential with that opportunity. But also, I would like to tell the young people that one of the greatest success factors of leadership is the value-based leadership. And so one should have a filter of values that helps them to determine what they can do and what they can't do based on their value beliefs. And lastly, there is no substitute for hard work.
There's no substitute
There is no substitute for hard work. The success of our youthful people depends on sheer hard work. Luck is there, but it's only for a few. For majority of us, it's sheer hard work. And lastly, it takes patience to succeed, and immediate gratification always messes the long-term view of a young person. They have 70, 80 years to live. Let them not miss all those years by the decisions they are making today because they want gratification today. Gratification needs to be spread over a lifetime.
Couldn't have been said any better. All right, so we want you to introduce our business anchor. And this is your camera 2.
Benetunya, what do we have today for business?
That's right, James. We have a lot in business. Of course, you're familiar with this, but I like what you said. Gratification needs to be spread out. And also talking of people who are spreading profits, we have results from the Standard Group full year results coming in today. We have all those details coming up in business.
The Standard Group posts 13% profit before tax in full year profits.
My name is Boni Tunya and this is KTN Business. The Standard Group Limited has posted a 13% increase in its profit before tax for the year ending December 31st, 2013. Here's KTN's Michael Karanja with the rest of that report.
Despite tough operating conditions in the year under review, the Standard Group managed to post growth across its business units. During the period, revenues rose by 33% from 3.6 billion shillings to 4.8 billion shillings. This came as the group consolidated its commercial department to boost advertising revenue. This saw print advertising record 41% growth over the previous year, while TV advertising revenue was up 72%. Circulation revenue during the year grew by 6%. This came as publications such as the Nairobian gained traction in the market. The planned digital migration did, however, adversely impact the group's performance following the impairment of analog transmission equipment. That, coupled with additional provisions arising from the change of policy, amounted to 151 million shillings in 2013. Shareholders' funds grew from 1.84 billion shillings in 2013 to standard 2 billion shillings, marking a 10% growth. The board of directors maintained that the group would continue reinvesting into the business. As a result, the board proposes a similar dividend to 2012 at 50 cents per share. Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
The Capital Markets Authority is optimistic of breaking the long dry spell of listings at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Speaking to KTN Business on the sidelines of the CMA Open Day in Nairobi, Acting Chief Executive Officer Paul Muthaura noted that the market is now ready for new entrants.
The Nairobi Securities Exchange has been ranked among Africa's best performing bourses over the last few years. But despite this, the NSE has witnessed fewer listings, with companies opting instead to issue bonds or borrow from financial institutions.
When you look at the last few years with our macroeconomic instability, currency, inflation rates, it may not have been the best time for people to come to the market.
But a more stable currency, the recent oil finds, and an increasingly diversified economy could herald a new dawn for the NSE. CMA anticipates more firms will begin listing to mop up the influx of funds coming into the country.
With the much stronger prospects for a growing middle class, the very positive international sentiments about Kenya, we think we're going to see a significant shift in the minds of companies willing to come to the market.
This listing, CMA indicates, will be primarily on the growth enterprise market segment. The segment launched last year to give SMEs easy access to the bourse and raise capital for growth has only listed one company to date.
We have very clear projections on the number of companies we hope to list year on year, and a lot of that focus is going to be on the GEM segment, because we think that SMEs are really the engines of the economy, and they're the ones that are going to drive us forward.
But the regulator says it will be keeping a close eye on corporate governance going forward. The authority is keen to forestall any recurrence of investor apathy.
As we allow companies to tap public money, they must be putting in place the right kind of corporate governance, transparency and accountability to make sure that the investments they collect will be well managed, will be well allocated.
Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Across borders, Ethiopia is making progress on the construction of its Grand Renaissance Dam project on River Nile. The Horn of Africa country began diverting the Blue Nile in May of 2013 to build a 6,000 megawatt dam, which will be Africa's largest when completed in 2017. According to media reports, Ethiopia will begin generating electricity within 18 months from what will be Africa's largest power plant. And the sale of the 7.1 billion birr, or just about $367 million of bonds over the past 3 years to domestic investors has contributed to the 27 billion birr spent, or if you like, 75.5 billion birr, Africa's second most populous country after Nigeria is boosting electricity output to cater for increased demand as economic growth surges on. Ethiopia already exports power to Sudan and Djibouti. It also is building a transmission line to Kenya and is in discussions with Yemen and the water of South Sudan for construction.
As it will benefit Ethiopia equally, 50-50. So 100% will be benefited, and at the same time the downstream countries will be also benefited. How? It will be used as a flood protection structure. We are building this dam on Abai River to generate electricity.
Right, so finally, let's take a look at the other business headlines that made it to our business desk today on the corporate briefs.
Equity Group Foundation has commissioned the first class of Wings to Fly scholars into the Equity African Leaders Program, which affords them internship employment at the bank before they join university. Speaking during the commissioning ceremony, James Mwangi, CEO of the bank, remarked that this aligns well with the vision of championing the social-economic transformation of the people of Africa. Elsewhere, Philips has established a research and innovation hub in Nairobi in what it says underlines the company's commitment to invest in Africa. Philips Africa's Innovation Hub company says will work with both the creation and new innovations, as well as bringing these inventions to the market. The hub will also operate towards addressing key challenges like improving access to lighting and affordable healthcare. And finally, telecommunications firm Bharti Airtel and mobile phone manufacturer Nokia have announced that the new Nokia X smartphone will be available to purchase across 17 countries in Africa from mid-April 2014. The firm takes pride in the sophisticated design and applications of the device, saying that it is intended for consumers in the high-growth markets.
Right, let's talk numbers now with a look at how the market closed this Friday on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Financial market report coming up next. Well, that's all the business we had for you on the day that Olympia Capital was the biggest decliner of the day, moving down just about 7%. I have more numbers on Monday. My name is Boni Tunya. Good night and have a great weekend.
Thank you very much, Boni Tunya, for that business report. Well, you are watching KTN Friday briefing on the 21st of March 2014. Here now is a recap of our top story, and it comes from Mombasa, where President Uhuru Kenyatta succumbed to members of county assemblies' pressure, promising to negotiate with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission on giving them car grants. The president, who officiated the opening of MCA's retreat in Mombasa, indicated that all leaders are equally elected and should be subjected to the same benefits. But as he promised to address the MCA's plight, the president reiterated his concerns about the high public wage bill. Uhuru dashed any hopes of increasing allocation of funds to the counties and creation of ward development funds, saying the country's resources are strained. The MCAs are meeting in the coastal city to take stock of devolution and the performance of the assemblies 1 year on. Great. Now it's that time that we do not cross over to Kisumu County. Willis, the ward master, aka Willis Ocheng, is seated right next to me. Willis, great to have you in studio.
Betty, we are not crossing over to Kisumu because I'm here. If we cross over to Kisumu,
yes,
my seat there will be blank.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's great to see you too.
It's great to see you.
How have you been?
I've been great, and you look really good. I like the, the jacket,
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Now, Willis, for the very many people who are super excited that you're here tonight, and it's really good because, there's that hunger. It's hunger, yeah?
Yes,
hunger.
Yes.
When you come, I'm always so self-conscious. I'm like, I don't want to make a mistake. There's always, that hunger to know how different words are pronounced. And I'm great that you're here tonight.
That's great.
I'm really happy that you're here. All right.
But, Betty, before we can continue,
yes,
kindly You remember about Pisces?
Pisces last week.
I said we say Pisces, not pieces.
Not pieces.
And I promised something.
Oh,
So
you have something.
much for that. Let me just give me a second so that we can have it.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Willis,
So
Willis,
Betty, something here looks like, you know, a map of Africa.
Yeah.
That is for you. There is something inside or
Oh.
inside.
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 Do you have to?
Can you find out? That is a primary stress there. So I'll open it for you.
Okay.
And the moment I open it here,
Oh.
you realize this is Kenya,
Yeah.
the key to
Oh, yes.
Africa. Then
This
there is
is
something
amazing.
for you.
Oh, this is wow.
That is for you.
Oh. Wow, thank you very much. It's just, it's,
There
you know,
you
it's
are.
close to matching what I've worn, but this is really beautiful. Thank you.
Pisces.
Pisces. I remember that.
Then Betty,
Yes.
maybe you, one that time you asked me a question.
Yes.
What is it that makes Willis?
Yes.
Betty, due to your wonderful English,
Oh, really?
I felt I have to bring you something that is an equivalent of your English. Oxford.
You mean I'm that good?
I'm
really?
telling you, if you want to know what makes Willis, partly it's this. Oxford Dictionary, you don't go for the meaning of words alone, but you'll find a guide to how words should be pronounced as we talk about standard English pronunciations.
Wow, this is such a great gift. Thank you very much.
And
Oxford,
this
you know,
one, even your grammar, so many things right inside
Yes.
that dictionary,
Yes.
and you realize there is a lot
This
when
is
you
a
go
great.
through it.
This is amazing. Thank you. This is such a great night. All these
And
gifts.
finally,
Oh, there's another one.
there's a wonderful lady in my house.
Okay.
A very wonderful lady in my house.
Okay.
She told me, when you reach KTN,
Yes.
just tell Betty, congratulations.
Oh, really?
And here you are.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. She's
She's
Fanis.
Fanis.
Thank you very much, Fanis, for this. I really do appreciate.
Wow.
You know, the nights that Willis probably comes home late.
Yes. There you
Because
are.
of the thank you
Yes.
very much, Willis, for
You're
all
welcome.
these gifts.
You're welcome.
Straight from Kisumu County, now in Nairobi. Thank you very much.
Karibu.
Okay, asante. All right, so Willis, just before we get to these words that have been sent to us by our lovely viewers, what is good? Is there good and bad pronunciation?
Yes, Betty, when we talk now English pronunciations, we have good and bad or wrong pronunciations.
Okay.
Somebody may ask, the way you're asking me,
Yes.
what amounts to good or wrong pronunciations?
Yes.
One, you should pronounce words in a modern or modern way. The pronunciation should be modern. It should not be archaic or outdated. So
okay.
if there is a pronunciation that was being used
Yes.
maybe about 400 years ago,
Yes.
you'll realize that the evolution of languages, certain things like what we call sound shifts and the rest,
Okay.
you'd find by today we'd be talking about modern English or modern English, and we have the old English. As of now, you can't use what was being used in the past.
Exactly.
There is also this other element that the pronunciation that you're using should be of native or near native accent. So much such that when you're talking about what we call received pronunciation, that is the British standard form of pronunciation that is used by the educated and cultured persons, especially in southern England, but not everybody.
Southern.
So southern, we say southern.
Southern.
There is also another point. The points are so
Yes,
many,
yes,
but
yes.
because of time, I may not exhaust everything.
Yes.
You may also judge good pronunciation when we have somebody who has definite knowledge on the phonology, that is the sound system of a given language. Even your mother tongue, if you know the sound system,
Yes.
you'd always be using the correct soundings
system.
instead of maybe swallowing words,
Okay.
every given word. That is not amounting to good pronunciation.
So what are the reasons for poor pronunciations? Are there, I know there's one, the maybe mother tongue influence.
Yes, when you talk about, you're asking about the factors
Yes.
behind poor pronunciation.
Yes, yes.
Like in Africa and even beyond, your mother tongue influence or the first language influence can affect the way you pronounce words. You may not be able to come out of it. Now, you'll be pronouncing words in, a wrong way. So that is a factor. We also lack simpler guide materials which can be used locally, so that if they can be available in schools, colleges, and even media houses or any other organization where we have, you know, serious communication. If we had simpler guides to pronunciations, people would do better. But now that they are not there, it is a factor that is affecting so many people. Then the other thing that we have is your educational background. Which school did you go to? Maybe who handled you at pre-primary level or primary level and even secondary level and even university. You'd find if whoever was handling you was pronouncing words wrongly, then you acquired them from that person, it will affect you.
So these are the
Betty,
teachers.
there are so many reasons. These are the teachers, lecturers and all that. And even them, they were also taught by other people who made them to acquire wrong pronunciations.
Exactly.
Those ones are there. The factors are so many. You also have even issues like personal attitude towards, you know, pronunciations or a language for that matter. If you have wrong, you know, speech habits as a person, then it would be very difficult for you also to improve on your pronunciation. But the factors are so many. It needs a class.
Do you think maybe we should introduce, a pronunciation lesson in schools so that, moving forward?
There you are. If our education system wants to help people, because we have wonderful people who can become lawyers, they can become judges, magistrates, broadcasters like you, they can become even marketers who would speak in very clear and effective way when it comes to pronouncing words correctly. But Betty, what exactly is a problem is that our education system at the moment, not only in Kenya, in very many countries, only lays more emphasis on grammar and vocabulary. When it comes to pronunciations, very little. And ECD, what we call ECD, that is the early childhood development or education program. Normally we have a problem because sometimes the children may, I'm not saying they may be told wrong pronunciations, like tortoise, which is actually tortoise. Tortoise. So when they're told tortoise, everybody says tortoise. Tortoise.
Yes.
There you are.
Tortoise. Okay, let's take some words that have been sent by our viewers, and I'll start by: do we say vitamin or vitamin?
Vitamin.
Vitamin.
I'm talking about RP, the British Standard Pronunciation. Vitamin. But sometimes, remember, I said here that pronunciations are not prescriptive, just like languages in general. You can't say 1 + 1 = 2 strictly. Because there are words which may, for certain linguistic or geographical reasons, may be pronounced in more than one way, Betty, and they're allowed or acceptable for that matter.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to another one. This one I'll spell it out for you. Tenure.
Tenure. You're talking about tenure.
Tenure.
My
like tenure in office.
Your term in office. Tenure. So there is the sound n, like in the Kiswahili word nyanya. So n, tenure. Tenure. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, there's do we say apple or apple?
Well, very tricky, but the sound, the letter in that word, the first letter, its name is A. Letter A.
A.
But the sound in that word is apple, just like an arrow. The first letter is A, but you don't say arrow, you say an arrow, an apple or apple.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's apple.
Yes.
All right. And there's deposit or deposit?
Oh, we say deposit.
Deposit.
Most people think the word is pronounced the way it is spelled, which is not the case.
Yes.
So when you look at it the way it's spelled, you'll just say deposit. Get me the deposit. But the correct pronunciation for that word, Betty, is deposit. Deposit. Yes, there you are.
Okay. There's another one here which has that ch word. Do you say premature? Opportunity? Maybe
you say premature, but remember, sometimes somebody can use tiwa, or premature or tiwa, premature, premature or premature.
So it's
but
correct.
The most
premature.
common one is premature. You get that?
Yes.
There is even the sounding which is also allowed, premature.
Oh, really?
There are people who use premature.
Is
and
it
it's
correct?
allowed.
Okay.
I told you we have what we call alternative pronunciations.
Yes.
But there are those which are commonly used and, considered to be more standard than the others.
All right. Let me take a number of them from Twitter. X Walupita is asking, tell him to pronounce this word, Y-A-T-C-H.
Y-A-T-C-H.
Yacht?
First, and foremost,
Yes.
my dear sister, and the person who has sent that in, we normally get the spelling of that word wrong.
Oh, really?
We don't have T before C and H. It is Y-A-C-H-T, yacht, yacht, not
Yacht.
yacht. Most people spell it as Y-A-T-C-H.
Yes.
Then they say yacht, but it's Y-A-C-H-T, and pronunciation for that word is yacht.
Yacht.
Yachting, a yachting club, not yachting club, the way we commonly say it locally.
Okay, Evelyn Ogutu wants to know the correct pronunciation of mythology or mythology.
Me. There is no what I normally call diphthong. The vowel glide, my, no. You just go straight to me.
Me.
Me. That letter Y takes the sound of the short vowel E. Me. A myth. Mythology, not mythology.
Mythology.
No. Yes.
Okay, Barre Sheto wants to know, how do we pronounce donkey or donkey? This one we've ever covered, but just because you're here today.
Betty, what confuses many people, especially locally when we are talking about English, is certain words. People are not aware of certain basic aspects of pronunciation. For instance, when we see the word monkey, monkey, we psychologically just think, since we are not taught properly about pronunciations, to know about irregular sound values for similar letter sequences, I'll just say, okay, I saw that one was monkey, now I will say donkey. But the correct pronunciation for that word is donkey.
Donkey.
Monkey. Just like you say laughter. But we don't say slaughter house. We say slaughter. You realize the spelling is the same.
Yes.
Or just even the word science and conscience. Somebody may say conscience because of seeing the word science. But this is where I'm talking about irregular sound values for similar letter sequences in English. And that is the English Betty.
So it's conscience.
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 Then we have science, but conscience, not conscience.
Not conscience.
Yes.
Okay, the director or Dr. Watson wants to know H-E-I-R.
H-E-I-R.
Hair.
No. I get that word now.
Yes.
H-E-I-R.
Yes.
Letter H is silent. Many people are not aware of that.
Oh, really?
And if you ask somebody to write a word that is pronounced like the one you've given me, you realize somebody will write for you hair for nywele.
Yes.
You get that? But we say hair, H-A-I-R.
Yes.
But when this one which is being given right here is not hair, that H is silent.
Yes.
So you say air, just like upepo, A-I-R and H-E-I-R are words which are called homophones.
Yes.
Spelled differently but pronounced the same way.
All right.
Yes.
So it's air.
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 Yes.
Okay. What about mystery or mystery?
Mystery.
Mystery.
Not mystery, not mystery, mystery.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving on to, there's so many. Let me just, try
There's
to...
no problem. So long as it's English, any English word on earth. Just
Okay.
ask, so long as your time is okay.
Okay, fine then. All right, there's this other one, veterinary.
Very tricky. I've once talked to you about something called elision. Leaving parts of certain words in English language, like when I'm talking about the word extraordinary,
Yes.
I'm saying extraordinary for locals.
Okay.
Extraordinary. That word is extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Remember, there's a time I also talked of important.
Yes.
But you can say important. Please, that word is veterinary. Veterinary. Just like we also say restaurant. Restaurant. So we leave that part of torrent.
Okay.
So restaurant, veterinary, by way of elision. Those are certain crucial aspects of pronunciation and meant for people who are in careers of serious communication.
Serious
Betty.
communication. All right,
like
fine.
broadcasting.
Okay, great.
Yes.
We will be coming back to these words in just a short while. Let's now leave it for, Lynn Washira to continue with sports. Maybe you can introduce her. Use the camera too to introduce the sports lady.
Yes, Lynn Washira, when it comes to sports, we Africans and even the world over, people love that. So it's you now to make us love it more. Lynn, over to you.
Thank you very much. And of course, tonight we have a lot of rugby news where the Kenya national sevens women team will be making a debut at the Hong Kong Sevens later this month. For that story and much more after a short break, don't go away. Stay with KTN. And shifting gears from volleyball to some rugby news, Mary Musieka is the only new inclusion in the Kenya women's sevens team headed for the Hong Kong Sevens. Kenya is among countries that will send a women's team for the 7th leg of the IRB Sevens on Friday 28th March 2014, where the team will be making its debut in the tournament. The squad was unveiled today.
Kenya will be captained by Dorian Rimo with Cameline Awor assisting. Also in the side is experienced Kathleen Abila, Celestine Masinde, Emily Woods, Irene Owino, Janet Awor, and Fidelia Lando. Mary Musieka, Janet Okello, and Stacey Awor will also be in the plane to the Far East.
And it's good to see that almost all the girls passed the fitness test, and that's actually the basis of how we selected the team.
The Kenya Lionesses will be making their maiden appearance in Hong Kong and is due to travel on Monday 24th March 2014. Elsewhere, there are 2 main cup teams and 16 teams that will be taking part in the 24th edition of the Great Rift Valley Tennis Tournament have been assured a fun-filled and well-organized tournament. The annual tournament will be played over the Easter weekend at the Nakuru Athletics Club.
We can guarantee you nothing but an epic tournament, both on and off the pitch.
We will be giving away 5,000 copies of the Game Yetu newspaper to the first 2,500 fans walking through the gates on Saturday and Sunday as well.
Standard Group, through its Game Yetu brand, is partnering with the annual extravaganza for the 2nd year running. Moses Swahisi, KTN Sports.
In cracks where cockroaches hide, use Mortein Doom Power Guard in drains to kill them before they come out. Spray Mortein Doom Power Guard in dustbins too. Mortein Doom! The ultimate cockroach killer.
Well, we are just about to wind things up here on KTN Friday Briefing, but let's have a review of our big question tonight. And if you remember, we had asked you, should the MCAs be given car grants by the state? That was our big question tonight, and let's take a look at how you have polled. And 22% say yes, they should be given car grants, but the majority, 78%, say no, they should not be given car grants, especially at this time when our economy is suffering. Well, thank you very much for your responses on KTN Friday Briefing. Let me now bring in Willis, the Word Master, to quickly wrap things up. Willis, before anything else, you have to come back next week. I plead with you, you have to come back next week, because the kind of the feedback we're getting is too much.
There's no problem, Betty. It's always my pleasure, as long as we can help,
Yes.
one another.
Yes.
Talking of one another because of many people in Kenya and Africa, for that matter. There's no problem.
Okay.
I would make arrangements and I would be back in the capital city. And I know my friend, your cameraman in Kisumu,
Yeah.
the hardworking cameraman, Nicholas Buru,
Yes.
must also be saying, Will is back to the capital city.
Yeah,
but
you-
I can be,
Yes.
I can be here. There's
Oh,
no problem.
All right then.
Yes.
So Willis will be coming in next week to answer all these questions that we're seeing. We're very sorry that you cannot answer all of them right now because of time, but next week we'll make sure that Willis is here to make sure that he answers all these questions that you have sent to me. But for now, thank you very much for watching KTN Friday Briefing. It has been such a wonderful time having your company with the CEO and Willis, the Word Master. We do say thank you very much, and do have yourself a lovely weekend. See you next week. God bless.